feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Well, hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab on this extremely exciting free agent edition. I am here so far today with my good friend Jackie K, managing editor of milehighhockey.com. Thank you folks so much for tuning in and choosing us for your free agent frenzy coverage, as we promise to be all Avs. Well, not all the time, because there's just going to be so many moves flying in today, but we are going to keep it with the Avalanche focus when it is their time to be newsworthy. I'm very excited. Jackie, how are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad.
Are you as excited as me, or are you worried about overspending today?
I hate the deadline more, so
Sure.
so I wouldn't say that I have that apprehension or sense of dread today.
Gotcha.
We know the Avs don't really. I'll knock on wood when I say this. Don't really go crazy and overspend in UFA.
Sure.
So I don't think it's as much of a panic, but I'd like to see some actual upgrades. So I guess that makes me a little nervous.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Well, as I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Avs seem to have a little bit of shoring up to do on the back end as it pertains to basically 5 through 7D. And they're basically without a whole line of forwards as we sit today, with Logan O'Connor seemingly on the mend for a bit here.
Oh my God, the Avs signed Parker Kelly for 4 years. That's revolting.
Oh boy, so he's 4C. So there's their 4C, it appears.
I don't know about that,
because
they just love him too much.
Parker Kelly. What was the figure? That's quick.
It doesn't. Yeah. Well, he wasn't UFA. They just. He's signed for next year already, so that means he's around for 5 years.
Sure. Okay. Jeez, oh, they just love him. Just love that guy.
Yeah. But as far as the back end, I think they're really missing a 4.
Same.
Maybe even really a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know that I have a lot of respect for Gerard, so I'm not saying like he kind of floats in there. Like, I'm not saying he can't really do the job of a 3. It's just they don't really have a 3. I feel like Manson's really a 5.
Yeah.
and he could, and if there's an injury, like, it's fine if he's in the top 4. Like, he's someone that can spot up, but you don't want. There's a reason why they go into every playoff run with him down a peg.
Sure.
So that's why they have to keep renting a top 4. So they really need like a 4 at least. If they can't find another 3, then at least find a 4.
Okay.
And then you don't want to have Middleton in the lineup. So I guess if they sign one player, then that would push Middleton out. I don't know if I'd necessarily even have him as a 7, but I think that's what they've kind of decided. I mean, which is okay. I mean, I would like someone better, but like as a 7, can you really complain that much?
Right.
I guess not, but they really need one decent defenseman to kind of like push everybody down.
I agree with that. And I mean, you know me, I had don't trade Sam Girard on a whiteboard for like 6 months last year. And I'm with you there. Like I really like Sammy G, always have, always will. But I do look at the middle of that defensive group and I wonder if there's room to make a little bit of improvement. Whether it be him or Manson, to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing the Avalanche move one of those contracts. I know it's crazy, me of all people saying that, but just in terms of forming a full roster, I think they're not left with a lot of choices otherwise, especially if they're keen on, you know, which I don't know that they are, but keen on making moves today. We've seen other teams in the West go well over the cap in the last couple of days, with basically the thought of taking care of that sort of cap money number stuff after they figure out who's really at the top of their lineup and so on and so forth. I think the Avalanche are in a place to do that. It just remains to be seen if that's in fact what they will do. And it's just coming through from Elliot Friedman that Parker Kelly got 4 by $1.7 million. So that leaves the Avs with just about $5.8 million.
Well, he was already signed for next year, so
so that doesn't go against this 7.5 that we're working with today. Okay, that's good news.
It's kind of like Logan O'Connor, like they're getting it early, so this is the very first day that they could give him an extension.
Okay.
So it's like when they signed Logan O'Connor early, it was like already a year early. So
it's like what we hope they do with Kale next year.
Basically, yeah, it's like a year early kind of thing. Or it'd be like if Netchess signed right now. It wouldn't be for so I mean it's cheap, like 1.7. I don't really think he's an NHL player. Like to me, I don't like people will say his analytics were good, but if you look at his with you without yous, like it was O'Connor carrying him.
Yeah.
Like other than that, I don't think he doesn't produce enough, he doesn't do a lot. Like he's okay if he's in your lineup, but he shouldn't be like a set and forget. You know, how many like, oh, it's okay, can you live with, right? Like how
Sure.
if you're saying that about half the team, then you're not that good.
Agreed.
So,
well, and we talked about like the Avs have some work to do in terms of shoring up their AHL squad as well. And I'm not saying Parker Kelly won't play in the NHL because I'm sure he will, especially early on in the season with O'Connor out of the lineup. But I wouldn't be surprised if later on down the road, if the Avs are in the position that they want to be in later down the road, that he's more of an AHL staple for the Eagles. I know that's a big figure. Is it a 1 or 2-way contract? That's the question, I guess.
Oh, it'd be one with that kind of.
Yeah, so maybe not. Maybe not then. Maybe I'm wrong. But
so I mean, it's a big commitment. It will be pretty variable as the years go on. So I mean, it's not like if they get all these great forwards, they can't do anything, but obviously that kind of commitment is their vision that he's like a set and forget part of the team. But I mean, we'll see. We know they fall in love with guys, and it's kind of like the Miles Wood thing. I mean, it sounded good at the time,
sure,
but
not anymore. I mean, well,
yeah.
at least
they did get rid of him. They did get rid of him, but I prefer commitment to better players. It's just me.
Hey, you know, I don't hate that logic, Jackie. I really don't. Speaking of better players, I did an article on yesterday I released just because I was like, we better get something out in terms of free agency, just to throw some darts at the wall, and maybe a couple of them will stick. But one of the guys that I've been keen on is I'll probably butcher the pronunciation here, but Pius Suter. I don't know.
I think Pius Suter.
Suter. I like him a lot. I don't know in terms of his skating how much of a fit he is, but I do think he can bring something that is slightly top 6 leaning, but that can also kind of be a part of your bottom 6. That's a guy that I've been keen on. I also like Brian Dumoulin, you know, veteran defender, played in New Jersey last year in the playoffs, looked pretty good with them. Might be a good fill-in for a guy like EJ, who we haven't heard anything about.
You know, the funny thing is we've heard very little rumors about the Avs free agents, and we heard very little rumors about them being in on anybody. So
Agreed.
It's very much like, are they just going to sign these guys? I guess it sounded like Lindgren's going to check out the market. Sometimes they check it out and they come back, so it's not 100% they're gone. But I do find it a bit odd. I mean, you've heard so many names, so many rumors, and there's just isn't rumors either way.
They're agreed. Which is like, I mean, we know the Avs don't share anything. Basically, it gets to the insiders, and right as it gets to the insiders, they're getting ready to fire off their social media post. Like the Avs are not the type of team to give away a lot of information, especially in these moments throughout the offseason. So I don't expect them to start today, which is funny, and it's kind of like good drama, smart work if they are just worried about entertaining, because when you roll into July 1st like this today, you have no idea what the Avs are going to do. They could very well just do absolutely nothing, maybe sure up a couple of their RFAs. We don't even know who got tendered.
We do. Oh, we do. It was nobody. So they have no RFAs.
So we know that they didn't tender anyone. Okay,
yeah,
that changes things.
Yes, I think that I didn't find I don't know if the team ever released it, or I think the NHL puts out a document the following day. So I think by then it's like
you have to know, basically. So. Gotcha.
So they so that means Foodie, which that might surprise some people, doesn't surprise me. Like, he's been in the AHL for 5 years. You just can't do it any longer. Like, like he needs it. It's also for his benefit. I don't know what kind of contract he's going to get, but you can't just be stuck in one place for more than 5 years. I think that's borderline unethical, really.
Sure.
Do 4 that they got from the Islanders, I never felt like they really had any interest. I think that surprised some people. I just, like, they gave him one playoff game. Like, no, he's gone. Mandalese is gone as well. I didn't. Miners supplanted him, which is a good thing. I think Miners a lot better, and they signed him yesterday, so that's nice. He's gone. I think the other one was Ludwig. I think Brennan said he saw something like there was a rumor he might sign in Europe. Whenever we get him on, I was going to ask him just if he could elaborate on that a little bit. So sometimes the Avs keep guys' rights if they know for sure they're going to Europe, just in case. But he also has arbitration rights, so you could turn around and take that offer and then arbitrate yourself a contract. So maybe they didn't want to do that either. So those are my thoughts on that. In recent years, they've really tried to wrap up any RFAs before. So it makes sense why we saw some signings yesterday, and they don't have any. So I guess they're just completely done with that part of the off season.
Yeah, so it appears. It looks like Jonathan Toews is going to be a Winnipeg Jet. That's interesting. Was that a 1-year contract?
Yes, we knew about that last week. They just couldn't officially
announce it. Yeah,
make it until today.
Same with the Vegas and Toronto ordeal. What did you think
really
of that?
don't understand why that had. I don't get it. I really don't. That they enacted
that was extortion, Jackie.
Well, then not that part of it. Just that it had to be today and not yesterday. I mean, you could do a sign. I don't understand why you couldn't do a sign and trade yesterday.
Agreed.
But you could today. There's some 4D chess about why today is better for them, and I highly doubt it's because Toronto's paying him a bonus. I mean, I doubt that they would agree to that. So I don't really get what the difference is, but whatever. If there's some loophole that matters to them, whatever. Not my problem.
Yeah. It's been interesting. I mean, we've also seen Florida keep everyone basically outside of kind of like Nate Schmidt. It sounds like Evan Rodriguez will probably hit the open market, but they were able to get Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Aaron Ekblad back. Pretty impactful stuff. Do you feel like they're poised for a three-peat, or is they're still gonna lose a few?
I'd say for sure, yeah. I mean, I think they pretty much have the core signed until 2030, so they'll definitely have a few more kicks at the can.
Sure.
I mean, people say, is it taxes? Is it because the cap isn't flat? I mean, these are below market deals. I mean, so it doesn't really matter.
Here's an interesting one, Jackie. They got Logan Stankoven in Carolina for 8 years, $6 million AAV, part of the Mikko Rantanen ordeal.
I'd say it's a good deal for both sides. Yeah. I mean, for a young guy to get an 8-year deal it's big for the security, the money, but he probably undersold himself a little bit there. So it is interesting moving into this is the last year of the 8-year deal. And we've always heard with the cap going up, nobody wants to sign long term because you're taking away from your earning potential. But yet players continue to do it. Like we've heard that about Marner, that all he wants is a short deal. He took a short deal with Toronto. I think he was on a 5-year deal. And then all of a sudden he's okay with the 8-year deal. I find that a little bit curious. Like they always say that, but at the end of the day, I think that security will always appeal.
I agree. I mean, like, not to mention, like, projections of the cap going up and the cap actually going up are two different things.
Well, that too. You can never count on the economy, right?
Exactly.
Even though people are like, oh, it's going to be 130 million in 3 years or whatever the ridiculous figure is, you also never know. It's true.
And we found out real quick when the world pandemic came that isn't always the case. Things completely outside of the realm of hockey can have a huge impact on the market itself. So I think that the CBA also is getting rid of the 8-year deal. I think the max you can get now is 7, even with the team you're contracted with coming up when the new CBA is activated. They also did some work to close the LTIR loophole. You'll have to be cap compliant for game 83, which would be your first game of the playoffs. I think there is still some leniency in terms of like, if the guy's actually going to play, he hits the books. And if he's not, he doesn't. But I do think that it's good that the league is listening, at least to some of its fan base, in the sense of like, yeah, maybe we should establish a little more integrity as it pertains to that LTIR. And the other thing go ahead, Jackie. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm going to plan on actually reading it when it's revealed, because there's always little caveats in there.
Sure.
I think for that is one thing that I think is a little bit underreported. I think the most relief you can get in season is the league average of salaries, which is around $3 million. So even if you had like a $10 million guy go down, you can only get $3 million relief, which I think that's a big impact. I think that's a bigger impact than the playoff.
Yeah.
LTIR. But as always, there's going to be so many stipulations, and we'll have to see it in practice. But I think that one could be even more impactful than I think the playoff one.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I hadn't even heard that part. That is potentially more impactful, especially for teams like the Avalanche, who like to suit 50 guys apparently in a single season. No more paper transactions. Yeah.
That too. Yeah, that's going to be another super interesting one. I think it's good. I think it was a way to screw the two-way contract guys out of money, because for every day you're not on the NHL roster, you're not getting NHL pay.
Yep.
So basically they're getting like half pay. And so the Avs love to do the daily savings paper transactions, so they're just going to have to figure something out. I think they'll probably trade out players more, because when you send a guy down, he now has to play one AHL game. And sometimes they only play on the weekends with how the schedule is. So it's not always going to be like, oh, well, he can play tonight and then he'll be back tomorrow. Like sometimes you might be waiting a week. So I think it's good. Even though they were paper transactions, like I said, you're basically screwing the guy out of half pay just to bank daily cap space. And they'll still find ways to play around with it and get their cap savings. I think, like I said, I think they'll probably trade the players out a little bit more to do that, but they're not going to be able to do it on a daily basis anymore, which I think is fine. Like go on a road trip, bring a guy, like cut some of the silliness out. Like it just got way too silly.
Yeah, I agree, especially around here. It was just like, what are we even looking like? Why? And they were making social media posts about these paper transactions.
Well, and then it's like, oh my God, why did you send this guy down when he's decent? And then it was like, no, he's really not leaving. But then sometimes they would, and it's just like, come on, let's just kind of like be decent about this.
Sure. It looks like Brock Besser will be remaining a Canuck.
Wow, that one's surprising.
That's surprising to me. Yeah, he should have had plenty of takers on the open market.
Yeah, for sure. And it also kind of seemed like that maybe the relationship or situation there was a little worn, like maybe both sides are ready for a change. But yeah, that one's interesting.
Funny enough, Dater is already attempting to roast the Parker Kelly signing by saying we just lost cap space. But as I was informed by you, Jackie, his contract doesn't hit until next year. This new 4-year deal doesn't hit till next year. So
Yeah.
Dater, try again, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, he can roast it. It's fine. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the reason.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Just everything's kind of rolling in. It looks like Brock Besser will stay in Vancouver on a 7-year deal at 7.25 AAV. That's a lot of money. So I think
Yeah, it's a good. Well, with everyone getting kind of overpaid right now, that's not too bad.
nuh-uh, I don't think so. Let's see here. William Eklund in San Jose, 3 by 5.6. That's a
That's
lot.
a big bet on him,
Yeah, it's a lot.
especially at 3 years. So I
Mhm.
mean, good for him. But how does that help San Jose? Because then, like, they're not buying anything. They're not. I'd have to even see. Is that any UFA years?
I
I'd
don't
be
know.
curious to see. But hey, good for him.
Speaking of no UFA years, let's talk about the Sam Malinsky extension.
Oh yeah. So it was good to see that get done. I'll probably have to retract I think he's like imminently getting traded. However, just signing him for 1 year isn't really a commitment.
Sure.
But would I expect him to start the season for sure? And
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. It kind of 1.4, that's definitely a good price, but it also doesn't buy any UFA years. So
Mm-hmm.
the thinking that he probably would have been closer to 2 with any term is probably true. So folks can decide, like, would they rather have done that and got him for term? I know it'll be like, well, then they can just revisit it next year, but he's going to be UFA. So
Yeah.
with the cap going up, we're going to see a crazy year of comparables. If the plan is just to sign him next year, like, how does that help you?
I agree. I feel
So,
like you're not out of the woods with your
right.
prediction yet, because to me it's still an attractive enough contract that you could basically see a team who needs somebody to play in their second pair that is willing to take a risk on a guy like Sam, who's shown to have some offensive upside that and honestly just some puck movement skills that should afford him at some point middle pairing time for any team. Maybe not the Avs with Cale Makar and Devon Taves. Hopefully not, in my humble opinion. But unless he takes just this massive step, I don't see him as kind of like realizing his potential here in Colorado as soon as he could elsewhere. With that being said, he could serve as an attractive piece to someone else.
They might have to decide around the beginning of the year. I guess on a 1-year deal, you could extend him in January.
Sure.
So let's say they really decide to commit to him. They could do that. It'll cost more than it would have cost now, but
yeah,
I think that's probably what they're going to do. I think they plan to start him, keep him. If they're super in love, maybe even think about an extension in January. If not, then he could be trade bait because, like you said, low price, somebody that could shore up depth for another team.
yeah.
Pretty attractive there. So we'll see. But I'll say it's not imminent anymore. I'd be very surprised he's not at training camp at this point.
So the other thing I want to talk about, because the news isn't quite rolling in, is like, well, I guess that tampering memo really hit.
Right? That's just so dumb. Like,
yeah.
okay, we'll email it out an hour later, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to talk about Nikolai Kovalenko because he was not tendered his qualifying offer. I know he was very vocal to to San Jose. I did that in the article too. My God. To San Jose about not wanting to stay there, basically saying, I'll go back and play in the KHL. Like, don't even bother. Is there a potential for him to be signed today by the Avalanche? Because I mean, they've shown to be interested before, and in the trade for Mackenzie Blackwood, I think it was a necessary collateral to send over a guy like Kovalenko to garner that trade. But I don't think that was any statement as to the Avs not believing in Kovalenko. What are your thoughts on that?
See, that's the thing. I don't think they believe him, and not because of the trade, because you do have to give to get sometimes. So I get that, but the Avs just never circle back on prospects. They would circle back on like a Evan Rodriguez. They would circle back on like a veteran, because we know they like bringing guys back. But like prospects, they never want to like admit that not necessarily they were wrong because, like we said, he was an asset in the trade, but I just felt like when he came over, and I know he was injured when he came over that spring, but the way that they treated him and the way that they viewed him, they were never committed.
Yeah.
And so I don't think so. I mean, I guess we'll see how desperate they get, but well, and the thing with him in San Jose, he was injured for a while. So if you look at the low number of games played, that was part of it.
Yep.
I don't think he said like I'm not coming back. It's just like, do you have a plan for me? Are you going to play me? And they were terrible. So like, what was the reason why you couldn't play him? And so, I just think
he looked pretty good for a second there with Celebrini, though, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I think something's there. Like you could work with him, but it's the matter of that runway where he can be a top 6 guy, huge role. He can be a star in the KHL. At some point, how bad do you want to live in North America? Maybe be in the lineup as a 4th liner. Like what do you want out of your career and your life? Mm-hmm. So I just think they just don't have patience for it. And I know that's painted as like arrogance and you know, it's something negative. Like I think the Russian attitude always gets
painted.
Framed as very negative, and it's just they have a different set of choices.
Sure.
So if that's your option, I'm sure he enjoys being in North America. I actually think he's still he stayed around in California for a while.
Yeah.
But you know, it just why? At some point, why? It's just why force it? And so I just think unless somebody's really like probably give him a middle 6 job, then he's gone. And there's like no way the Avs are going to give that to him.
No, he doesn't fit in the Avs as a middle 6 guy. If he's coming back for the Avs, it's to play on the 3rd or 4th line, period. And that's even the 3rd line is being a little bit generous, I think. Just because that's not the way the Avalanche work. Not because I wouldn't use him further up the lineup, because I think I would. We are now being joined by Ezra Parter, my friend Ezra. How are you today?
Welcome.
Yes.
Hi. I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. We were just joking that the memo for not tampering must have really hit, because usually about 10:05 or 10:15, there's like 30 deals that come through right away. As of right now, there's only been like 4 or 5. And I know that the free agent pool in general is kind of a little more depleted than in years past, with a lot of guys re-signing. Florida, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, my God. But Ezra, are you excited for today as an Avalanche fan? Thank you for joining the program. And are you excited?
I'm excited about the Parker Kelly deal, honestly.
Yeah.
I liked it. It's nice and cheap, and it's nice and long, which is a good combo for a guy who feels like he's a trustworthy bottom 6 player. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what they do with the rest of the money. I also am really glad that it wasn't a big splash right away. That's good news, because overspending on a guy is kind of, it's not really the Avs front office's MO, but it's definitely the July 1st MO. So I'm glad to see they're not doing that. And yeah, it's been an interesting day so far. I've been in day job meetings, kind of nice. Like eyeing the
peeking
the general hockey talk chat in our Slack channel. And there's so many. I'm really surprised Brock Besser's going back to Vancouver.
Same.
Did you guys already talk about that?
We talked a little bit about Brock Besser staying in Vancouver. We talked about how that was kind of even a pretty friendly figure, sort of, in my mind at least. But we were also talking about Kovalenko not being offered his RFA tender from San Jose, and Jackie pointed to the fact that he has a great life to live back in Russia, playing in the KHL, where he can be very involved in a team that could realize some success and win that Gregorian Cup. And so he has options. And we were talking about the Russian kind of how that mindset is painted. And I for one agree with Jackie in the sense that, like, if he feels more fulfilled with playing hockey in the KHL, having a top 6 role there, being basically a Russian superstar, I don't blame him, because he's gonna, if he does sign somewhere here in the NHL, it's looking like bottom 6 at the best. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he got 2 cracks at being a top 6 forward, one with a good team, one with a bad team, and it didn't work. He seemed promising in San Jose first off, or like when he
Mhm.
first got there, but it just didn't last. And yeah, I mean, if your goal is to be an offensive player, and you have an opportunity to do it when you also are close to home and you get paid pretty well, and you get the comforts of being somewhere you're comfortable with, then yeah, I see that. I think
Yeah.
Mikhail Grigorenko is another guy who he tried
Sure.
it in the NHL for a while and it just didn't quite work. He didn't have the top 6 NHL finishing ability. Kovalenko seems to be kind of the same way. There's also a lot of freedom in playing for a KHL team, like
Mhm.
just in terms of what you're allowed to do on the ice, that it seems like
Sure.
NHL coaches do not allow.
Yeah.
So NHL coaches and NHL defensemen, because there's a difference in how defensemen check. In the NHL, if you're dangling around the offensive zone, you're going to get blown up. If in the KHL, it doesn't seem like that happens as frequently. Now, have I watched a lot of KHL games? No, but I'm right. So yeah,
KHLers love that hip check, though.
Yeah, they do. They
that's
called him
true.
what they call him the wrecking ball down there in the KHL, little Kovalenko. So he was doing something. A couple
Yeah, totally.
newsworthy things. Corey Perry to the Kings. So put your money down on LA to make the Stanley Cup final and lose.
I'd be okay with that.
Dan Vladar 2 by 3.35 in Philadelphia. But I do want to get back to that Brock Besser deal because it ties into something I've been trying to bring about, conjure bold hope, which is P.S. Suter coming to Colorado. There was rumors that they were still working with him to the midnight hour trying to retain him. Now we see Brock Besser come back. It feels to me like Suter might be the one to go now. I'm also seeing from, and take it with a grain of salt, Adrian Dater says that the Avs are, quote, in on Nikolai Ehlers, which is a little bit of Ehlers, bigger fish than
That would be
I
incredible.
thought they would go after, honestly.
Yes, that would honestly be exciting if they managed to land him, but we'll see.
Yeah, that
So
would mean moving something significant. But
exactly.
I'm into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I led with on today's episode was it feels like a lot of the teams in the West are just loading up and going, okay, we'll make the moves that we have to make to become compliant once we have the full picture of who we get to choose from in terms of shedding cap. And I think that that's actually a smart move inside of the arms race of the West. Sure, the Florida Panthers are back-to-back champions. They're from the East, but the West does feel like more of a gauntlet right now, more of an arms race. So that would be exciting. But talk to me a little bit about that Besser deal, Ezra, and tell me what you think from it.
Well, it's weird to see a Vancouver team that seems so adrift and not solid in what they're doing, run it back with all the same guys. They brought back Demko, which makes sense because he's
Sure.
a high caliber goaltender when he's healthy, and they put him on a short deal so they can get out of it if he isn't healthy. But bringing back Garland and Besser seems to me they're bringing back part of the mix that didn't work. Now maybe they think just not having what's his name, the awful guy they shipped out. Man,
JT Miller.
JT Miller.
JT Miller. I can't believe I forgot his name. I'm still drinking my coffee today. They think just not having JT Miller in the room will change things for the year, and maybe it will. I mean, they still have Quinn Hughes, they still have Elias Pettersson, but man, for a team that isn't seeming to be a contender to just run it back, it's interesting. It's an interesting move.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something when you talk about the Demko extension, because I think I wouldn't be surprised, I'll put it this way, if Vancouver views themselves as a better team than they showed because they didn't have their goalie. And that maybe they're closer to that competitor than maybe they showed last season because of that. Looks like Avs are going to sign TJ Tynan and Jack
my God.
HN to 1-year contracts for the 2025-26 season. That is according to Megan Angley of Guerrilla Sports. That just dropped 24 seconds ago. So interesting. We are stocking the AHL cupboards apparently right now. Hopefully those guys do not play in the NHL this coming season. That's my hope.
We can't trust Bednar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just, I mean,
Uh,
I get that the Eagles have to sign veterans.
yeah,
I get
Yeah.
that. They're going to regardless. You can find better than Tynan. He wasn't even that good. Like Matthew Phillips led the team in scoring.
yeah.
If they were going to pick any of them, I would have preferred either Phillips for the AHL or Wagner's okay. Like you can call him up a little bit and it's okay.
Yeah.
Those are probably the two I would pick. So
He had so many opportunities, Bednar, this year to call up and use Tynan, and he didn't really
He
do much of
didn't.
it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think
it's just
I'm not worried about that. I think they like him as a fit for Loveland, and
they played him enough. Like how many
yeah,
games did he get? He played in the
he
beginning of
got
the
like
season like
6.
way too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he, like I said, and we're gonna say this like I'm gonna say this like 80 times. We almost played 50 guys. So if you were in the AHL and you didn't get a shot last year, I don't really know what to tell you. I mean,
Ooh,
it's
Gavrikov gone.
oh,
Rangers.
Gabrikov is a Ranger
That
7 by
that one
7.
was a tamper one. Everyone knew that one was coming.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's not here. A
Yeah.
lot of there was a lot of talk about Gavrikov being the
There's no
future of the
way they
second
could have
pair.
paid him though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that felt insane to me. I'm
I
glad it
guess
didn't happen.
I think they were saying 7 million, which
7 by
honestly
7.
I
Yeah.
expected worse.
Yeah.
So then what's
Yeah.
Lindgren holding out for that kind of coin? Like
Oh,
we
That's
haven't really
crazy.
talked about the Lindgren thing.
No.
So it sounded like the Avs were interested, and then with the extra cap room they created, it was something a lot more plausible.
if
Is
he's
he just
around
not that
4,
interested? Are they lowballing him? Are the Avs just not as attractive as we think? Like what's the deal there? Because usually the Avs keep the toys they want.
I
well, I hope
wonder
they're. Go ahead.
I wonder if he feels like it wasn't a good fit personally. I know it's
Possibly.
two-sided, you know what I mean? Like a lot of times we talk about, oh well, the front office doesn't like him as a fit here, Casey Middlestep. I feel like that might have been the case with Lindgren. From his perspective, I have nothing to no source material for that claim. But it's just the way I see how in particular like the smaller guys catch flack here in Colorado and how he could be the next man up in terms of that, especially if the Avs trade Sam Girard. Then he does probably get slotted back into that second pair. And then he's basically Sam Girard 2.0 minus the Tornado. And I just don't know how much appeal there is to being on this defensive group with that always hanging over your head. Maybe that's naive to me because I hope players don't care that much about fan narratives. But look at Jonathan Drouin. They do. They absolutely do. Sometimes that stuff does sink in. And so I wonder if that's the case. I mean, you got to think like these guys all came in at the deadline and they got just a little taste and it didn't end well. It hurt the way things ended for the Avalanche. And I feel like some guys might look at that situation and go, I don't think they're as close as they thought they were. And I don't know if I want to be a part of it. And that's just being honest with the situation. Let's see, we got a couple of things coming in as well. Hearing Boston and Edmonton are discussing a Victor Arvidsson deal that was a little while back. That actually, William Eklund signs a 3-year extension with the Sharks. We talked about that one. Corey Perry to LA, talked about that one as well. Armia, someone that I had a little bit of an eye on. Yoel Armia will be an LA King, according to Frank Saravalli. Perry is getting a 7-year deal in LA.
Oh my goodness. How old is he?
That's
Is this
according
like the
to
Brad
Nick
Marchand?
Alberta.
39.
Is this the Brad Marchand
He's getting a
comparable?
7-year deal.
That
my.
sounds illegal.
That is a market buster. Like that just every agent's going, well, Corey Perry just got 7 years. Why can't my guy? He's a veteran with playoff experience.
Be like, but he hasn't been in 4 cup finals in the last 5 years. So.
Yeah, exactly. Holy moly. That is crazy.
Doesn't make sense.
That was Nick Alberga of satellite radio, NHL satellite radio that had that. So I don't know if that's true. If that is true, that might be the talk of the day. Looks like New Jersey is making a strong pitch for Connor Brown, also an Edmonton Oiler. And there's that Gavrikov signing you mentioned. But man, 7 years for Corey Perry.
Wow. that I would not have done that.
That's like the Avs signing Eric Johnson for a 3-year contract right now, to me. Speaking
7
of,
years still isn't 3 years. Like
Yeah.
7 years is 7
I think
years.
the Avs signing Eric Johnson to a 7-year contract.
Yeah, what the hell is that even? I don't even understand. Hopefully that was a typo. Nick Alberga, we're coming after you if it was. But still nothing on the. It looks like Keandre Miller is working on a deal with Carolina, between New York and Carolina, for Keandre Miller. We talked about him a little bit being kind of a solid fit here in Colorado. Just not a lot of Avs stuff, except for last week Nathan McKinnon squashing everyone's Sidney Crosby hopes because one former goon made a social media post, and everybody believed him for like 2 hours. But really nothing Avs related except the Parker Kelly and then the HN and TJ Tynan. Hopefully we're just sitting here waiting for something big to go down. We have about 1,000 of you listening and watching right now from your homes. Thank you so much for choosing the Mile High Hockey Lab for your free agent frenzy day. Just waiting for the big ones to roll in, but while we have your attention, head on over to the website, milehighhockey.com. We have all of our written material over there to include some free agent targets, some of the more pressing off-season topics we are starting to cover. And of course, we do our morning flurries and all that jazz. So head on over there, check it all out. We got work from the three of us here, including Ezra Parter and Jackie K, who are joining me today on this July 1st. Happy Canada Day to those of you who are listening up as our neighbors in the north. This is going to be hopefully an eventful Canada Day. Do they light fireworks in Canada on Canada Day? Is that a thing?
I think so, but
Right?
I'm not Canadian, so I'm not gonna pretend like.
If you are Canadian and you are listening, tell us about your Canada Day rituals. Do they include bang bangs? Are we in that same party together?
Maybe not the personal as much.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do fireworks shows, but like I don't think they're as into the making your own pyro and trying to blow yourself up like we do.
They're not as into blowing off appendages for no absolute reason on one day in summer. I get it. Connor Brown will sign in New Jersey, 4 years, $3 million. That's pretty solid price for him.
Yeah, that's a good deal for him. Not bouncing back from that terrible injury. I like that for him. Not sure I love it for. I would have liked him as a fit for a third line here. So it's, but not at that price.
Let's see. Just looking through the headlines here. Even David Pagnotta got in on the TJ Tynan and Jack Aitchen news.
Oh, desperate time.
Hang on, brother. Yep, Oilers are shedding all of Victor Arvidsson's $4 million cap hit. Nikolai Ehlers' watch might be delayed as the free agency window is officially opened. Let's see. I don't think we're going to hear anything on Nick Ehlers today. This one is going to play out a bit. That makes sense. He's got lots of options.
And he's probably the best forward on the market now.
Yeah.
So.
And most teams that want him probably have to make some moves to make it happen. So
sure,
it'll be once he agrees, then they have to actually get the trades done. It'll be a while.
Do we see any trades from the Avalanche today, or do you think that they waited out? Yes. Good answer.
I think they made their trade already.
Yeah.
I feel like we do this every year. We always have this show, and every year I'm like, I feel like they got a lot of their work done already. I feel that way again this year. There's little things for me that they need to shore up. I'd love to see some PK killers fill out the top or the bottom six, and the same is true for D5 through 7. I want guys who are great at retrieving the puck, getting themselves in the way of shots, and clearing the zone. And potentially in the forward group, I want a little bit of JT Compher and LOC. Guys who can quickly turn the play and be a danger shorthanded. If the Avalanche can reestablish that competitive advantage. In fact, while Logan was doing that this postseason, it felt like that might be a key contributor to them inevitably winning the series. So I think they need to lean into that. I know LOC will be on the mend for a little bit. So I wrote in the article, that's an affordable thing to solve. And so I think that's what we'll see more of. It's just like the Avs to make these tiny, tiny little moves that everyone's like, well, okay, cool, whatever. And I just think that that's where they are right now. It would be awesome to see them get on a guy like Ehlers. I don't see where does he even fit in the top 6? Because you got to slot somebody down. Is it Landeskog by default?
I mean, my first thought, honestly, is that screams somebody's getting moved from the current, like Nichushkin, Lehkonen, Natchez, probably Natchez, right?
Right.
But the other option would be you really stack a top 9 and roll it. You move Colton to center and put somebody down on the third with him and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, you still need one more forward in the top 9 at that point. So, God, it would be very cool to see Ehlers fit in, but it does seem like if he's not getting Ehlers is so strange to me because the Winnipeg Jets, who desperately need offense, never gave him enough ice time to really see if he could be a consistent number 1 winger because they didn't trust him defensively, right? So we assume that's why, because his defensive metrics are actually not terrible, but he was in sheltered minutes. It's so hard to read his stat card because of that. So to me, if you're throwing him on McKinnon's wing with Natchez, it's like, well, maybe this line can't ever defend anyone. Who knows? But if you're putting him next to Brock Nelson and Val Nichushkin, for example, then you're like, okay, well, there's a defensive consciousness here that I think could offset it, kind of in the same way that we expect that from Lehkonen to offset Natchez, right? So there's an endless series of options there, but they also all feel scary in a way. Which, that's the beauty of free agency, right? But
it'd just be surprising to see them win in the bidding war. Like we said, he's probably the best forward left. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it would restore my belief in the fact that maybe I'm not crazy in thinking that the Avs are kind of close to being cup contenders, even though they lost in the first round. That's what it would do. A deal like that would do for me, because I do think so far anyway, we've seen that the Avs are kind of just like how you describe Ehlers, tough to read on paper right now. They seem like they have this. They don't seem like they have superstars. They have MVP, best defender in the league caliber players. It's just everything else except maybe the goaltending is also shored up now, I think. So what we see today will either reinforce my fear, which is that they're starting to be viewed a little bit differently. Like, it's been 4 or 5 straight years where the Avs end up on the top, 5 teams in terms of cup odds. And I think it shows in what sort of talent ends up wanting to go to Colorado. I just hope that remains true, because when your image in the league, in the eyes of the agents and the rest of the league changes, you do start to not have as many options. So I think it's a good thing if we see the Avalanche make a big move. It looks like Tanner Jeannot, 5 by $3.4 million to Boston. Michael Pezzetta, 2 by basically league minimum in Toronto. Ezra, I want to get your thought on
those two guys are like the same player.
I know, and one got 3.4 million, and one got the league minimum.
Why? What is this league obsession with Tanner Jeannot? He's never been good. I don't understand it. Everybody just wants to keep paying this guy.
Nashville does that to you, man. I swear. You go to Nashville and everyone's like, well, they just not a very good team, and he was a lot better if he'd be on a good team. And then he goes to 2 different teams. It's interesting for Boston.
He was hurt.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm interested in, like, what do you guys think of Nate Schmidt in Colorado? I don't necessarily like him because he's a Vegas Golden Knight, but I'm sure my tune would change if he were not, and he were a Colorado Avalanche. I don't hate the way he plays. In fact, I prefer it. It's my style of hockey. It's a little bit towing the line, and I think the Avs need a little more of that. What do you guys think of a guy like him?
I think he'd be affordable-ish, but isn't he a right-hander? So that kind of...
That's true.
Do the Avs really need a right-hander? I mean, unless, of course, they move Manson so they can get Ehlers, then sign Schmidt. That could be an appropriate plan. But otherwise, probably just not the fit
Oh,
they're
he's a
looking
left.
for.
He's a left shooting
Is he a
D.
lefty?
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
he could
Maybe
be an
second.
affordable
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
He
I
definitely
wonder.
fits the Colorado MO
Mm-hmm. Totally. I agree. Jackie, what were you gonna say?
just in terms of
I
play
was gonna
style.
say. I was just gonna say. I just am getting the feeling they're just saving their money for Lindgren. They're waiting him out, and they're just gonna sign Lindgren. That's my prediction at this point.
For too much or for
Probably okay. I
okay.
mean, it's the fact. Probably in that 4 to 5 range.
Okay.
4 to 5 million range.
Look, somebody roasted me yesterday at 5:30 in the afternoon because I had a Mitch Marner thumbnail with an Avalanche jersey on. And they said that Mitch Marner thumbnail didn't get its glory day, LOL. Oh, man. I was just trying to go for shock value, baby, and it didn't work. It only lasted like 20 minutes. But we're seeing a similar, I guess, I don't know. I know we talked about not talking about Dallas, but I'm going to talk a little bit about Dallas right now because they are in the situation potentially that the Avalanche would have been in had they extended Mikko Rantanen by actually extending Mikko Rantanen. We're seeing Granlund's not going to come back. We're seeing them. They've already traded Mason, the notorious flopper Marchment. And now it feels like they are really having to liquefy in order to make things work, which would have been potentially the Avalanche reality. I ask again, Jackie, which situation would you rather be in? Would you rather be trying to shed draft capital with Mikko Rantanen, or excuse me, shed cap space with Mikko Rantanen to make the cap, or would you rather be in the Avs position now where they have roughly $7 million to play with at free agent frenzy day?
I just prefer to have good players. So, because having cap space and needing to find someone isn't exactly the best situation to be in because you're at the mercy of either overpaying the player or overpaying in a trade.
Mm-hmm. I tend to agree with you. I just the thing about it is Dallas didn't win. They look like a team right now that's doing what you do right after you win a Stanley Cup. And what's funny is Florida looks nothing like that team right now. And so I feel like this was the risk that you were going to take in extending Mikko. Was you might extend Mikko and have your top three in a couple of years when Makar's contract comes up. You might have three players with upwards of $38 million spent on three guys. And obviously cap percentages and yada, yada, you can go down that rabbit hole for sure. And who's won what, yada, yada. It's going to change. It already has. Someone getting paid more than 10 million won it. But that just goes to say, like, if the Avs kept him and didn't win this year, and then had to start making these other moves, it would have gotten thinner. The lineup would have had to have gotten thinner than it could potentially be. Now, that's not to say they're going to solve all their issues correctly and fill these holes effectively. But I do think, in my humble opinion, I'd rather have this issue. I'd rather have money in my pocket and be able to spend the time to target guys that I think are really good fits and go find even some value guys, which the Avs front office has proven to do before. Get guys that, other people maybe have given up on. And I think that is something that they've shown to do well. And so I feel like they're now in the position to act on their strengths rather than it felt like the rebounding after a cup is not that front office's strength. And I think they've hopefully I've been able to circle back to a position of power. Ezra, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the Avalanche situation is kind of, whether you're like the way Jackie phrased it, I'd rather have the players. I think the Avs have the better players, right?
Yeah.
Like Dallas has a more filled out roster for sure, but Colorado has the better top end, I'd say, and I think most people would say. And Colorado also has the opportunity to go make some changes that Dallas frankly can't. Dallas has contracts on the books that you don't want in Matt Dumba specifically. Colorado has one Sagan, Sagan, I don't mind as much because it's the last year, 2 years.
2 years, I think.
But anyway, he was worth the top of that contract,
Sure.
and then he got hurt. So that is what it is. But Colorado's in a situation where it looks like the only contract that is questionable is Josh Manson, and if he were to stay healthy, it's not that questionable. It's a good deal for the player he is when he's on the ice. The issue is just he's frequently not on the ice.
Sure.
If that continues, then it is a bad deal. But in the forward group, they're pretty cost effective right now. Colton is, I guess, a question mark, but I don't mind him at $4 million. With Coyle gone and Wood gone, the question marks are gone. So I love that part of it, and I think it does give them the opportunity to go overpay somebody and make a mistake. But if they don't do that, if they avoid that, and they bring in the right next deal to fill out the roster, it feels like it's a better situation than Dallas.
Okay.
Well, we also can't forget that they have an HS problem.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me, in my personal opinion, it feels like it's still potentially a problem. I think there really is a lot to be said about going through camp with guys, especially as it pertains to having a guy who's going to be a part of your power play. Avs don't even have an assistant coach yet. So, I mean,
you know what? I feel like they do. They just don't feel like telling us.
They're like, we'll let you know when he comes out of the basement. He's been working on the power play down there, and we don't want to bother him. But yeah, no, they don't. I just think it's too early to say that they have a problem. I'm not going to, however, disagree.
Well, it's
that
true. We don't
potential
know.
for
Like NHS could announce a signing tomorrow. We don't know. But the whole Mikko thing, getting NHS signed is a huge part of the whole move and the whole trade. If you want to argue about the money and stuff, and I definitely have arguments against that. But if we're having the money argument, you can't even finish that argument until you see what his price and ultimately how they arrive to it ends up.
Yeah.
Well, and he absolutely was being a stickler with Carolina, as we've been informed. Like, he got some pretty solid offers from them, and to his credit, he got better and probably proved that he was maybe worth more than some of the offers he got. But it wasn't like he wasn't given some. And I think that was a part of why Carolina was willing to have him be a part of the Mikko trade, other than obviously you got to trade a pretty good player to get Mikko Rantanen. I think that they were like, well, we don't even know if we're going to get him to re-sign. We're in a similar position as Colorado is with Mikko Rantanen. It's kind of hard to tell right now. So why don't we just swap problems? Well, as it turns out, Carolina didn't know that they could sign Mikko Rantanen either. They did sign Stankoven today to a 8-year deal. So that's pretty interesting. But it just shows you that, these things don't always go to plan for the front office, and there's inherent risk in every acquisition, especially trades with guys who are on potentially coming up expiring contracts. I do think that the good news is, as it pertains to Natchez, is if he plays this year and it doesn't work, you can do something to trade him this season again, and try and find a more long-term solution. We got another guest joining us, everybody. It's Evan Liu, live from the woods.
Welcome.
Evan,
hello.
How do you get internet out there, man? That's pretty impressive.
There's the school internet. I'm hotspotting off my phone. I just want to show you I'm truly in the middle of nowhere, because I don't know if you can see, but there are deer.
Whoa, cool.
Back there.
Hey, there's some animals. Look at that.
I'm telling you, I'm literally in the middle of nowhere.
That was like a live look at the Avs prospect pool. Do it again.
That's a good joke.
Just a couple of does. Yeah, exactly. Well, Evan, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man, and that you have to deal with your time change. He's eating a sandwich. I love it. You gotta love it. So you're spending your lunch break with us. What a nice guy you are. What are your thoughts so far? I mean, a lot has happened. We've seen Florida re-up with their big 3-headed, whatever you want to call that. And we've seen couple of guys, big names leave the board. We've been told Nikolai Ehlers is probably not going to do anything today. What are your thoughts so far? The TJ Tynan deal, Jack Aitchen, and of course, Parker Kelly getting an extension that won't hit until next year.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't know how Florida's doing this, man. It's kind of crazy. They are loading up, and I mean, if they weren't already the team to deal with, I mean, they definitely are now. When you have Marchand, Bennett, all those guys that are sticking with you through, I think at least 2030. So
yeah,
it's going to be hard to deal with for a long time out east. Luckily, the Avs only have to play them twice and would have to only worry about them once they get to the Stanley Cup final. But I mean, even then,
right,
just crazy. But for the Avalanche's sake, I was definitely surprised to see Parker Kelly as the first bit of business that they did today. I was not ready for that at all.
Just couldn't help themselves.
I know they couldn't help themselves. It's okay. I wish that number was a little bit lower, maybe towards like 1.5, but I don't mind it. I hope
I wish he would go back to Ottawa. I wish.
I hope he's able to sort of solidify himself a little bit more. I think we kind of got ideas of what he could be like on that fourth line, on the third line. I mean, the more they keep him on the fourth line, I think that helps, but it helps solidify your depth where you need some help because you don't really have a 3C at the moment. Parker Kelly's not going to play 3C, but he's at least a piece that can help support that. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that was the first piece of business done considering their other needs at the moment.
Same.
It probably was already done because it's an extension, so they just had to announce it. They probably on like June 1st were just couldn't wait to have that conversation. And
quick update so I don't end the program sounding like a fool. Perry did not get 7 years in LA, thank God.
That's good.
Nick Elberger has since clarified and said that was a joke. I had put right ? At the end. Don't mess around with us.
That's good. But as much as we love to laugh at other teams, bad comparables and bad contracts are bad comparables for everybody.
Everybody, yep. Yeah. That's why it's a market buster if that's
so
true.
It's funny as stuff like that, even though Perry's definitely in a different situation. But as much as people want to laugh at like, oh, this team's so stupid they signed that, now it's your comparable.
Mm-hmm. Well, Evan, you joined at a great time because we were just talking about comparing situations and comparing problems. I'll give you a little lead in so you kind of understand where we're going with this. Dallas appears to have the problems Colorado would have had they re-signed Mikko Rantanen in this past season and now in this offseason. Conversely, the Avalanche have a little bit of coin in their pocket, but with some holes to fill. Which situation would you rather be in?
Ooh, man, that's a tough question because you just look at how the season ended with Mikko Rantanen ending your season.
Yeah.
I guess the good thing for Dallas is that their core is pretty set. Like that's pretty much there. I guess you could say Jamie Benn might retire next year. Again, we'll go through that whole conversation. Honestly, this might be crazy. I probably want to stay in the Avs spot right now because you at least have some more flexibility of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I think the only problem with that, and the only thing that I think the Avs should do with that flexibility is getting guys that you want to sort of string down and be like, all right, we are going to build off of you for 3, 4, 5 years moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. That's something that they haven't really done since winning the Cup. So I guess I would like that. Again, that's why I feel like the Parker Kelly move makes sense. I still don't know why it was the first one done today, but it makes sense at least if they are trending in that direction, which I hope that they are, because they need to build a team and something that can kind of grow off of things for the next few years to come.
I like man.
They need good players. They need better players.
Yeah. I think
that's what they need to do to get back to where they were. You need to build a team. I totally agree with the less in-season changes they make coming up, the better. But you can't marry yourself. Like, Kelly isn't good at anything. Like, he is... you could sign anybody to do that job. Or even somebody you already have in your system. Like, you're not even getting anything more by having him. So, I mean, it's such a low contract. it's variable, whatever. But it means he's here and he's on
Mhm.
the ice and he's going to be on the team for 5 years.
Yeah.
Is their intention? Now, like we said, maybe he gets buried or replaced in the future. But the intention that you want him on your team for 5 years, you are not getting better.
Yeah, I think the Avs know right where they are. I feel like we've been calling for an acknowledgement and a little bit of accountability. And we've been calling for less of the mercenary approach. We've been calling for more of the buy-in on guys that you feel comfortable with buying in on. And I think the Parker Kelly signing an extension fits that. I agree with you. I don't know how much I enjoy like that much term, but at least it's not Miles Wood. At least it's not someone you're expecting to be more involved in the lineup in terms of that term. I think he will be a very serviceable fourth liner, and it sounds like McFarland is ready to test the waters on Jack Drury being a 3C rather than a 4C.
I so don't believe that for like a millisecond. There is no chance. None.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you rather go with Parker Kelly at 3C or Jack Drury? Because right now that's where the lineup ends.
Kelly's not Kelly shouldn't even be well, I mean, I don't think he should be in the NHL, but there you can't even talk yourself into Kelly having that kind of role. Obviously, right. Drury's the better player.
Sure.
I mean, they can say all they want. I mean, McFarland also said that Middleton could play second pair. So, I mean,
I hope he doesn't believe that.
You can't take him serious that what he's saying before he has all these guys signed. Like,
sure.
What he said, the part that I believe is when he said he thinks he's an elite 4C. Now, I'm sure he'll love that quote out there when Drury's an RFA next year.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thinking. If McFarland said that, then that's where they want him. You can't play him at 3C.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you're playing Parker Kelly at 3C, you're not winning. So I don't take any. They need somebody now that they traded almost their entire third line away. They need players, and they're going to need real third liners. Is the problem? I wish they took more of a top 9 approach, but still, there's a big difference between the fourth line and the third line, and they still need real third liners.
I agree with that. Let's get to that now. Who do we see? I've talked about Suter. Is there anybody else that you folks could see filling in that center position at 3C? That's currently on the market still.
The dream is restricted free agent Ryan McLeod, I'd say. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're.
Well, you can't offer sheet when you don't have picks.
Yeah, they would have to trade for him. The offer sheet. I mean, I guess they have a third, right? So they could.
Yeah, they could offer a certain amount of money.
Low.
Yes, exactly.
But also to be your own picks. That's the other problem.
Don't they have their own? Maybe I'm wrong. It doesn't matter. That's not going to happen. They're not going to offer shit to anybody. But he's like, if they find a way to make him happen, he's an incredible 3C, I'd say. But you know, I don't know. I mean, the P.S. Suter thing makes me nervous because he's such a exact copy of all the guys who didn't work. That I'm just like, why try it again? You know, I like him in theory, watching him not on the Avs, but then I look at him and his profile and how he plays the game, and I'm like, oh, okay, that is the same guy as Tomas Tatar. That is the same guy as he's a slightly better shooter. Joel Kiviranta, worse defensively. He's a little dude who doesn't do much. I would hope they don't pay for him. We'll see.
So to offer sheet McLeod, he'd have to get paid more than 1.5, but less than 2.3 if the Avs were to only be able to send their own third, which I don't know. Avs draft picks.
I don't think they have their own third even. Yeah, let me look real quick, but I don't think they do.
How about this? You go to NHLrecords.com and you go Colorado Avalanche draft selections, and it just says page not found. That feels very poignant.
Yeah, they have a Columbus third, so they can't.
So they can't do it with Columbus's third, unfortunately. So they'll have to trade for him. But I don't hate that target, and I don't hate a trade.
They have their own.
I have news. Former Av Ryan Lindgren, Seattle.
All right.
It's actually not terrible.
Oh,
4 by
Lindgren's
4.5.
4
Which is interesting. So the
Yeah.
Avs wouldn't do 4 by 4.5. That would have been.
I would have been all right with that.
Yeah, it would have been okay. It depends more on how you feel about Lindgren. I feel like, to me, it's a bit odd how much the fan base doesn't like him. To me, it's a little strange because maybe it's all just because of that J Fresh player card that had him at 0% WAR, and
Yeah.
and
Probably.
people never like accepted him. But it's like, but you all love Nelson. It's a little strange.
Yeah. Well, Jay Fresh spent a month trying to tell people Cale Makar wasn't good. Because
his model's a little suspect. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for the Avs to short up their D, I think that deal is not unreasonable. I know the hope would have been, for less, but that's not an unreasonable deal. So that still begs the question: were the Avs not there, or did he just really not want to come back?
That figure tells me he didn't want to come back. Because I can't imagine the Avs wouldn't have offered that.
I agree with that, but then moving to Seattle is a bizarre choice.
Yeah, it's true.
If the Avs were like... Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, for a guy that's played in the East, I mean, I guess, but Seattle, I don't know. I don't think they're that undesirable, but then now the question is going to be, what do the Avs do to replace him? That's kind of the scary question.
Because the group right now is just... Go ahead, Ezra. I'm sorry.
Holding out for him to get paid like a third pair defender. Because that is where he slots in. Like, they're not going to line him up as a second pairing defender instead of Sam Girard. They're not going to lining him up with Sam Girard maybe would make sense, but moving Sam to the right is not what they want to do. So to me, I'm like, they probably did say we're capping out around 3.84, something like that, because you're a third pairing guy for us.
But I feel like they need more than a third pair guy. Like, I don't care what they put on the Twitter card. Like, they need somebody that takes minutes, because Manson's really a 5.
Yeah, I agree.
And so you need somebody that is going to eat a lot more minutes than a third pair.
You need what Manson was supposed to be Girard's partner if you want to keep Girard.
Yeah, what Manson was when he was at his peak, really.
Exactly.
He's just not that guy anymore. So to me, you need to be moving Manson and bringing in 2 new people. But that's easier said than done. Yep. So
while we're talking about Girard too, do not trade him.
Where's my whiteboard?
People want this. This has been a continuous trend, especially before free agency started, when they were talking about dumping cap. Do not trade Sam Girard. No, stop it.
It's one of your better contracts, people. It's one of the good contracts that the Avs have. It's one of the contracts that they didn't spend too much on and got a guy for a long enough term who's been plenty impactful. Don't you dare make
an actual top 4 defenseman.
Exactly.
They're a little light on that too.
Don't make me. You guys want to go into the J Fresh and the metrics? Not you all, but the people online that love to communicate with me so endearingly. Bring up the metrics as it pertains to the Dallas and Avalanche series. And guess what? Sam Girard was by far and away one of the more impactful defenders for the Avalanche, and was less negatively impactful defensively than he appears, because you just remember that one goal in Game 7 where he swiped over the puck and Mikko Rantanen snuck it in. That's why you feel validated, because of one play. And that is absolutely ridiculous. You're watching the wrong program. If I start to see the numbers go down, I'll know why, because we're not going to do that here. If it goes to Jackie's point, this team needs good players. Sam Girard is a good player. If you trade Sam Girard, I'd be hard pressed for you to find a 1-to-1 deal where you find a guy who's going to slot into his role as effectively as he does. Now, if he's a part of a package and you're clearing space and your intention is to bring in somebody that does stimulate the top 6 and maybe solve the Natchez problem sooner, maybe, sure. But the only reason why that works is because he's valuable as hell at the figure he's at right now. That being Sam Girard. He would be a top 4, potentially top pairing defender on like 20 different teams in the NHL. So don't get me started, but I agree with you, Evan. Thank you for bringing that up, my friend. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Like, just I for one think if you're gonna trade a defender, it should be Manson. And
the other thing is he's on his last year, so you have to think about what is the intention with Manson. Are you gonna sign him to an extension, or is he just gonna walk? If you think he's gonna walk, then I think you do need to kind of leverage. I do think he has value and somebody would take him, but they have to start thinking about, like, the arc of some of these contracts are actually going to come back soon. You've got Girard up in 2 years. You got Lehkonen up in 2 years. Like, these things are starting to come to the next stage, the next era here. So you have to think about, what do you want? Not even just how do you add to your defense now? What are you doing with this defense in the near term? Are you really going to extend Manson? Are you thinking about extending Girard? You should. You should. But that's going to come up too. So, like, so this is what I say. What is the thought process of where this defense is headed? So that's why I say, people say, you know, Manson, he does certain things. It's not that bad.
It's all,
but it's like, what are you doing with him? Like, are you actually going to extend him in his mid-30s, and at what price? Or are you going to let him go?
Can't. Yeah. But, given that he can't stay in the lineup, but
that too. Like, how healthy is he going to be?
Yeah. On that, there are a few free agent defensemen that I would be excited about that I feel like are, you know, price reasonable options. The top, the high end, they're probably going to overpay, hopefully for a short time. Guy who would be on a third pair really cool, but up in the lineup, you're going to be nervous about is like a Dmitry Orlov. But then the one who I actually want, the guy, like, I love Nick Perbix, he's cool, but the guy who I actually want, because I think he'll be so cost effective and very fun to watch, I really like Jordan Harris. I thought he was so good in Montreal. He got shipped over to Columbus. He feels like the kind of guy who is an under the radar, like, actual Avs fit. That would excite me. Oh, and then there's, I forgot, also Alexeyev didn't get tendered in Washington. I was surprised by that. I don't know how much I actually want him, but I was just...
Or Bernard Docker too. If the Buffalo didn't keep him, like...
Yeah, Bernard Docker, Pierre-Oliver Joseph didn't get it in Pittsburgh. All those three guys are interesting reclamation projects, but as far as guys who they fit in right away, Jordan Harris, that excites
I like
me.
that. I like that, Ezra. I'm looking at a few things here. He was a 3rd round pick, number 71 overall. In his career, he's played 164 games. That seems like more than I would have realized.
He played a lot for Montreal for a while, but then they just had so many, like, high-end young players that,
he had 65 games and then 56 games for Montreal in 2022 and 2023, and then 33 last year for Columbus. Only played like 11 minutes a night in Columbus, which that doesn't quite surprise me though. Yeah, I was gonna say, and they found other solutions. Like, they had guys playing up with Werenski. That before the season started, they didn't have any idea that would be the case. So
and you can't trust any Columbus opinion on defense after that contract they gave Provorov.
yeah, good point. Speaking of defenders, it looks like maybe he's not even a defender.
This isn't us, but the Blues signing Nick Bjugstad for $2.175. I'm surprised the Avs weren't on something like that.
Yeah, it would have been a good fit. Yeah,
because he's the kind of veteran they'd like, and then give them options between.
That's a good deal.
Dang. Too bad the Avs didn't get Connor Garland in here just for the content of him and Nathan McKinnon slapping hands in the locker room, right? That would have been so much fun. Let's see. I'm just waiting for the Avs to be like, what's the meme? It's like the girl from Finding Nemo. She's like, you there? Let's do something here. At least announce your assistant. Looks like Dallas announced theirs, which just means another one's off the board. Neil Graham. Neil Graham will be the assistant in Dallas. Let's hope he's not good at his job.
I wonder if the Ehlers thing is just holding up everything, because if they're trying to save space for him, they can't go spend money elsewhere.
So the Canadians have reportedly signed Capo Kakinen, and for whatever reason, the NHL Network chose a picture of him where he's an Avalanche. Like that was never a
His
thing.
one game as an Av.
Yeah,
Right, the
What a
one
legend.
photo that's out there.
that is
That's
wild.
crazy.
funny.
So what do we think about where the Avs stand in the West? Oh, and wouldn't you know it, Jay Fresh just shared the 0% WAR card of Ryan Lindgren. Like just 4 minutes ago, look at this. He says, did he delete it already? Wow, he deleted it really fast. He must have put his foot in his mouth. But it says it torpedoed Adam someone's career, apparently.
Probably Adam Fox.
Yeah. But there's 1,100, almost 1,200 of you folks tuned in live right now. So thank you so much for joining us for your free agent coverage. But I want to gauge your guys' feeling about specifically the Central. Like, where do the Avs stand inside of their own division right now? If you had to, obviously you don't know anything about like the full lineup right now, but if you had to put a guess on it, let's just put it this way. Have the Avs fallen in their division, or are they sticking around kind of where they were in that 2 or 3 seed position as it sits today? Jackie, you go first.
You want to hear from me first? Oh, goodness.
Ladies first. What do you mean?
No, just because you all can refute.
Duh. Yeah. So you're getting the hang of this, Jackie.
Let's just say the other teams, I guess Winnipeg sort of hasn't done a whole lot, but I still think that they're better than a lot of people have given them credit for.
Sure.
It's tough because I don't understand that trade St. Louis made today, getting rid of Bolduc, who's like a decent young player. I don't think that makes them better. Obviously Utah made the big splash with Peterka.
Minnesota.
What, Tarasenko? What exactly?
Huge splash, Tarasenko.
Huge, dude, Tarasenko.
And I've always liked Tarasenko, but I know he's getting to the end of the line, so we'll see there.
But let's not forget Minnesota was on an absolute heater before they started getting injured last season.
Yeah, I would probably peg the Avs at the same. I wouldn't say 2/3. I'd say 3.
Okay.
Do they have enough talent to hold? They've been a good regular season team. They win in the regular season. But I do think the other teams are getting better. So you really could start to see more of a mix there. Maybe the Avs can't really afford many injuries. They kind of need to be at their ideal capacity most of the time. I could even see them have to fight a little bit for it. So I just, like I said, I think they need to get better, and I think they need to get better players. I don't think they can just rest on having Makar and McKinnon entirely.
Sure.
Like that does get them a lot. Like they're incredible and gives you regular season wins. But I guess what I'm trying to say, I think the margin for error continues to shrink. That's my answer.
So check this out. Gosh, you gotta love it when a gut feeling shakes out. But I am reading a tweet right now. Sorry, I gotta find it now because my screen refreshed. God darn it. But the Avs were in on Lindgren since trading Coyle. They made space essentially to be in on Lindgren. But it sounds like Lindgren indeed was not necessarily keen on the fit himself. And that's why.
That's kind of what we wondered. Yeah. Because the contract's not terrible.
Hold on. I got Bo Byram news. This will intrigue Jackie. Things are percolating around Sabres D-man Bo and Byram. Conversations happening with Calgary, Vegas, LA, and St. Louis. Also hearing an offer sheet is being contemplated.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Whatever gets him paid. I want to see him appreciated. That's all I care about.
Get them paid, get them some minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've talked about like, could we get him back around these parts? That'd be
has
lovely. The role. I just don't. I don't think the role is there for him.
There is. He'd be the 3D, which he was when he was here. Like,
Yeah, I would say he's 3 or 4D probably. There's
I
definitely
mean-
He wants to be
for it.
he wants to be 1 or 2. That's the whole
Yeah.
issue.
well,
Exactly.
first of all, he never said that. I think it was somebody that tweeted that, which wasn't even like one of the good insiders. And
Mm.
somehow that turned into like gospel, like him or his agent came out and said that. I mean, sure, does every player want to have a bigger role, play more minutes, etc.? But everyone
course.
makes it sound like he needs to be the number 1 D, he needs to be the number 1 power play guy, that he needs to be the man. And he never said anything like that. Like every team he's been on, he gets played a ton at 5-on-5. He played more than McCarr at 5-on-5, both this year and last year when he was in Colorado. He's somebody that always gets leaned on at 5-on-5. That's why he's like a 3/2. And I think if he gets that role, he's appreciated and he gets paid. I don't see any problem with that continuing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. He's got a high ceiling if he gets the opportunity.
Well,
I just don't want him to be in Vegas. I would hate that.
right?
I'd love it.
Oh, you can't do it, man. Well, I guess they don't have the guy who concussed him anymore, so that's fine. But
They don't?
Yeah.
Don't they
I don't
still
think so.
Colasar?
I don't think so.
No, Colasar's still on the. I think he's
Oh.
a RFA, but they do have space for his contract with Pietrangelo semi-retiring.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as the Marner. But Vegas always finds a way. That too.
Yeah.
I just wherever is a good fit for him and appreciates him and pays him. That's just what I want to see.
Mm.
Looks like it's funny because early rumors had the Avs in on Bowen Byram as a part of some of the
I wonder
party
if
pool of
Drager
trades.
put that in there just to take a dig at them, which I also that would be hilarious too. So
Yeah.
either way, even if they did realize their error, which they should have by this point, and want him back, that's great. But also, if the industry is just taking a dig at him, that's awesome too.
Just like, hey, bro, remember this guy? Well, and the Lindgren signing in Seattle means that another trade got worse today, which is unfortunate. But
It's true, but I just think of it was a rental trade. Like
yeah,
rental
Yeah.
trades are bad by definition. Like, you know, what was the other one that someone let go and it was like, oh, that'd make that trade look worse. It was like it was a rental trade. Like
Mhm.
they always look bad. It's just you're just supposed to not care because you're winning the cup, and then when you don't, it's still bad.
Still not there.
Nothing changes.
Mhm.
The Seattle defense group is interesting now. I wonder if there's a trade coming there because they have Vince Dunn and Brandon Montour, Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak, and now Ryan Lindgren and Josh Mahura and Riker Evans. That's a full blue line. If Lindgren, I guess Alexiak can just shift to the third pair, just be an expensive third pair guy, but it's interesting.
Yeah, they're a hard team to get a beat on. To be honest with you, period. Like, are they?
Yeah.
I think they're
for real?
trying to be, but I think they really are consciously trying to take a step. Now, do they have enough talent to take a step? We'll see. But I think they've decided not to just kind of like ride in neutral is kind of what they've been doing.
Yeah, that's what it's felt like since their expansion. It's just kind of like, well, we'll get by and build the brand a little bit.
And then they made the playoffs, and then I think they realized that that's not really what they were. They weren't good enough to really be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
But they probably do need to get a big signing. Like if they got an Ehlers, I think that would really push them up. Just doing Lindgren and getting rid of Burakovsky. Like they have a lot of money, so it's just what are they going to do with it? They're going to need a big name.
Let's see. We're slowing down a little bit. It's almost noon here Mountain Time, which means the market has been open for 2 hours. This has been one of the more least frenzied like free agent frenzies.
Do we
that
think
I've been
it's
a part
because
of.
everyone re-signed with their team, or because they're really listening to the no tampering threat?
I want to talk about the tampering thing because I thought it was just as against the integrity of the game for Toronto basically to say like, hey, save our bacon or else we're gonna tell on you. And Like what, dude? Like it's your general manager. I guess this is maybe you could argue as a part of him doing his job, but it's his job to not let Mitch Marner walk for nothing. And instead of like, I don't know, I hear me out. It just struck me as like all the kids at recess have been jumping off the playground and they'll know they're not supposed to. And then one kid turns to another and says, "You're going to give me your snack pack or I'm going to tell on you for jumping off the playground." Everybody tampers. And that's to the memo's point, right? That's why the memo got sent out, is because the NHL was like, we know you guys are doing this. It's kind of common knowledge, but if you don't stop it, we're going to punish you. And here is a very detailed way on how we're going to punish you. And in this scenario, it's like the LA in basketball. It's like that. To me, it has tones of that conspiracy, to where it's like, we can't just let Toronto lie in their mistake ever. Like, I get it. Waugh for Marner, that's not a trade. That's not a one that they're not getting a replacement. But they should have been made to lay in the bed that they made, not be able to blackmail another team into sending them something. That's just
But Toronto
crazy
wouldn't
to
have
me.
been the team that got in trouble. It would have been Vegas, not
Right.
Toronto.
Agreed.
So
And
then why? So then, if they were threatened, like, oh, this is going to be tampering if Vegas doesn't get their way, then wouldn't you say, cool?
No,
Okay,
it was
don't get your way.
Toronto basically said, if you don't send us something, we're going to report you for tampering to Vegas. So basically they said, send us Waugh because we don't want to lose Marner for nothing, or else when you sign him, we're going to send the NHL to investigate you for tampering, and you're going to lose all of these assets.
But I don't see why Toronto would care that much about what happens to Vegas. So,
I think they care more about optically not getting anything for Marner. So now they can say,
which is so funny, because most of the time, if anything's ever traded, it's like a 6th round pick or something. Yeah. So you don't get like a real asset for someone's signing rights.
No, not usually in a signing
and Vegas needed a dump. Like, I think Waugh's decent. I think he's a decent 4th liner, but Vegas needed a dump salary anyway. So is it really that much different than Vegas dumping him for some low pick? I guess it makes everybody feel better that this all worked out. That It was a sign-in trade. Toronto got an asset, but I don't know. I don't see how it really benefits Toronto that much for it to happen this way.
I think it's all optics. It's all optics for me.
Yeah, there's always a lot of optics. I think optics matter a whole lot more. You know, people laugh at it. It's like, no, teams are just trying to win the cup, but teams do so many things for optics. I find it funny. Like, the real world is about politics and optics, but yet people think sport is pure. That because the motivation is to win a Stanley Cup, that everyone truly does the only. I mean, sure, they all think that what they're doing is going to help them win a Stanley Cup, but that those are the only motivations, and that those are the only outcomes, is to do things to win the Stanley Cup. No. It's just like the real world, probably even heightened even more.
Yep. Ezra, I got bad news for you, buddy.
I saw it. I know.
Jordan Harris is heading to Boston.
I think I'd have to see it on a list, but I feel like Boston is
sneaky.
They've been doing some little decent improvement. I know that Jeannot contract's maybe a bit much, but
5 years, $3.4 million. Yeah.
I think Boston is trying to find some economic ways to get better.
How about we've had Parker Kelly signing a 4-year by $1.7 million extension ticker for like an hour and a half now and nothing else.
It's just been here the whole time.
Yeah,
I guess that was the first one. I want to get back to the tampering thing real quick, because that you're gonna love when I say this. This is very much the NASCAR in me coming out. There's a good saying in NASCAR, started forever, that said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So they can skirt around the rules there. I'm sure they're skirting around the rules in the NHL. I think you could say teams are being more safe and more hesitant, this time around because of that. But I mean, it's also just because not the Avalanche, but the league they decided that yesterday was free agency day, and they just made all their signings and trades, leading up to today, and really just kind of what's left is the scraps. And
isn't it kind of funny that teams decided they their own free agents were a lot better this time around.
Yes,
And like we saw, Vancouver re-signed Besser anyway. So so
That's
many.
a surprise to me.
Yeah, it wasn't just that like free agency happened early. It was that teams decided they like their own guys better.
Wish they would have decided that with Jonathan Drouin, but
That is it. We haven't talked about him yet. That's, to me, that's unfortunate. I think he made the team better. I think the whole like whatever happened in the playoffs, if it was getting marginalized or he just wasn't at his best. He was good the previous playoffs. So
yes,
to
he
be like,
was.
oh, he's just a terror, he's just too soft. He's just not built for playoffs. Like, I think all of this stuff is like revisionist history just to kick him out the door because he was legitimately good for 2 seasons. And he did have a slow start there in the beginning, the first year. But since then, he basically was giving the Avs point per game production.
At league minimum, basically.
Yeah, and he wasn't going to stay at that price. So I get that there's a limit for what you really want to pay Durant. And the injuries are an issue. I think he got lucky that he was healthy the year before. But yeah, I find it unfortunate that it seems like, we don't know yet until he's gone, that they won't be able to bring him back. But it's possible if the market doesn't materialize how he wants. But they don't really have a spot for him in the top 6. So
That's the thing.
I guess that's he's not a third liner. He's not going to work on the third line on this team. So. But I am a little sad about that. So we'll see where he signs. I hope he finds himself in a good situation because I think he's a guy that's not going to work out everywhere. So you really hope that he finds a good situation for himself. But I think it's a loss to lose him. As much as it's being painted like we don't need. It's funny when I hear like, oh well, he just didn't work out. It's like, what?
Yeah,
just
worked out perfectly.
Yeah, he did exactly what he was asked to come do.
I will give at least a little bit of hope for Avs fans who want Drouin to come back. He did technically hit the market last year. The Avs didn't sign him until I think a couple hours into July 1st. So
which
there is still hope for that to come. I think though you are right that there are concerns about whether or not he would fit in that top 6 or not even play up there. If he were to come back, I will say. Especially if they want to be kind of hesitant and precautious with one certain Gabriel Landeskog, I feel like Landy would be the kind of guy that would say, all right, I'll go play on third line. Like that's something that I can do. And then you can kind of work around from there in the top 6. That's something I feel like it wouldn't be an issue. But then it's more so than coming to agreements with Drouin and what he's looking for. Because
he's probably looking for a term now.
I
do wonder if he'd budge on price again, but I think he's ready for I think he has 3 small children now. He's gonna want to just live somewhere, put some roots down. So I think he's looking for that term.
Evan, I think you're onto something when you talk about like easing Landeskog into it and maybe that clearing way for Drouin to have a spot in the top 6. But I do think that's temporary. And so you have to know that going into the agreement. And so you can't look at a guy and be like, well, I think you can be a temporary solution, but let's give you a longer term deal. It just doesn't make sense. You guys know I'm begrudgingly bought a jersey last year of Jonathan Drouin's. And I'd love to see him come back. But I do think the real issue that is a legitimate one is like where he fits into the group, because I'm not naive. I think that he's at his best when he's playing with Nathan MacKinnon, and that means being on the top line. And I don't
know that Lehkonen needs to be. I think Lehkonen's a set and forget top liner, but you're right. If you're gonna give him term, you're basically committing that spot to him. So,
so it's like, and if Drew can't play with Mac and isn't as effective, if he doesn't, he's not worth the figure you're gonna give him, because that's what you're gonna give him money for. And I hope and know for a fact that when the chips are all on the table and the playoffs roll around, they're not going to keep Landeskog on the third line. He was their best forward in the first round, which is crazy. I mean, Nathan MacKinnon maybe has something to say about that. But in terms of like getting what you paid for, Landeskog came through in the playoffs this year. And I think that his emergence basically made the Avalanche have the luxury of telling Jonathan Drouin, like, I don't think we need to figure out if this is going to work anymore. I think we can just go with our captain, throw him up in the top 6, and let the rest kind of do its thing. Let's see. We're getting a little update from Brennan via his X account. He says that's a wrap for day 1 of development camp, which we haven't talked about at all. He says lots of edge work today. Look out for my article in a couple of hours on Hockey Mountain High. So check that out, folks, when you get a chance. I think our very own Ryan is down there. Ryan O'Hara too, from Mile High Hockey Lab.
I think so. Yeah.
He should be down there at practice as well, so we'll be getting some material from him. Anything from the development camp roster that you guys were shocked by?
I was a little surprised that Bardaka wasn't there. Usually the Avs and he's a little bit older, which I've never loved that you have like the 25-year-olds with the 18-year-olds. It's just a bit odd. But usually they like to have their new signees from Europe come in. So I'm a little surprised, but it could also be he doesn't have his visa yet. Who knows? They don't make... In the past couple years, they haven't really made their AHLers do it. I think they're trying to get a smaller group and not treat it like rookie camp part 2. So, yeah, it was nice to see their 3 new draftees were able to make it, especially if the defenseman really did come from Sweden at like a moment's notice. We'll see. I do hope to see them with my own eyes before the week is up. I'm not there today, but we'll see. I
hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Linus Funk is not the way you say it. It's Funsk.
Funsk?
That would be weird. Yeah, it's Funsk.
Let's get
Funski. I know. I wish it was Funk, but it's not.
We're getting Funski. What are you talking about?
I have a couple more signings here that I kind of want to talk about because I kind of wish the Habs were in on this. The Habs signed Sammy Blais to 1 year, and
that would be a good vet.
That would have been very good.
That would have been a good veteran with a guy that you wouldn't mind getting called up.
I liked Sammy Blais 3 years ago, but I don't know how I feel.
Well, he's Sammy Blais with the Habs at $775, so league minimum, and then Brandon Tanev.
He'd be like an AHL guy call up. Like
that's better.
He just won the Calder Cup with Abbotsford, so.
And then Utah got Brandon Tanev 3x2.5. That one I'm not so sure of, but
I'm a little scared that the Kiviranta sweepstakes aren't over yet. I'm a little worried about that one.
I just wanted a Tanev season photo in an Av sweater because he's the guy who does the eyes all big like that.
Yeah,
so he does it. But isn't he also the guy who blew a kiss?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so no, he can't come here. Not allowed.
Not about that. Yeah,
he can't blow a kiss at a fan and as a Kraken in Colorado and then come play for us. Sorry, bro. In fact, I want somebody to drop the gloves in Utah.
But you want the Rats on our team, though. So
you're right. You're not wrong.
You would forgive. I think you'd forgive.
Who wouldn't you forgive? Would you forgive Corey Perry?
I honestly do not have much of an opinion on Corey Perry. Maybe I'm the only person that actually doesn't have an opinion, but I truly don't care.
Is there something he did to Colorado? I don't remember.
No, I mean, he's just Corey Perry.
I'm not a fan of Corey Perry, but
okay. Could you ever forgive Jamie Benn?
No, that's one guy I could not.
Who else? This is a fun game. What about could you ever forgive? Let's see. Who else gets on our nerves? Who else has a very punchable face?
Who's the player in? I'm sure he's probably retired now, but in the 2014 playoffs, he need
Matt Cook. Answer is no.
Cook. Yeah, the
answer is a hard no.
Yeah.
Well, at least he doesn't play anymore, so don't worry about that.
Matt Cook literally made me like Evander Kane. Think about that.
Yeah, how about Evander Kane?
It didn't last. No thanks on Evander.
Yeah, agreed. No on that.
There's a good one.
A real one, though, Tom Wilson.
I could forgive Tom Wilson.
But he can play as long as he still can play.
That's right. That's the difference. He can play.
Exactly. Yeah. I would. Yeah, I would.
I mean,
and he kind of cooled down his antics.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe the hardest was like the trio of Rats on Vegas, which is what Colasar, McNabb, and the other one,
Carrier.
I don't even think he
Carrier's,
plays for
he's
Vegas
gone.
anymore.
He's in
Carrier.
Carolina.
That's the
I
one
believe.
that I mistook for the guy who ran Bowen Byram.
Yeah.
Carrier.
Yeah.
He's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Colasar.
He can borderline play. So
Yeah.
it's like.
Carrier.
And McNabb too.
I kind of wanted them to be in on when he was a free agent, but I'm fine with it not happening. And McNabb, I've never liked that guy because from the didn't he got somebody in the AHL? Did he hit?
It was Hishin. It was Joey Hishin in the Memorial Cup. So that goes way back to junior. But
you know what? I have an explanation for why the Avs are so quiet right now. It's because the Nuggets are going flipping crazy right now. And Josh Kroenke's answering their calls. Like he's like, yeah, we can do that bonus. And then he's like, we got Chris McFarland online. He's like, just wait, we're dealing with.
Is their day July
hundreds
1st
of million
as well?
Their day was yesterday, but now they are making trades left and right. They traded MPJ yesterday. They re-signed Michael Porter Jr. yesterday, or I'm sorry, they traded Michael Porter Jr. yesterday, and they re-signed Bruce Brown to basically the equivalent of a league a veteran minimum in NBA, and now they've made another trade today. So the Kroenkes are just super busy right now, and I not to downplay the NHL, but like the contracts in the NBA and the contracts in the NHL, just fiscally speaking, they're not very comparable. So
I think we go through this every year where it's just like, this is ridiculous. What's going on here?
Yeah.
There's another team out there that's making moves back on the NHL side of things. The Habs are just like going crazy with people right now. I guess now, or allegedly, the rumor is Cirelli to Montreal.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. I think they've had a good. I mean, come on, they added Dobson for basically nothing. I mean, 2 first-round picks are good assets, but as far as I mean, 2 mid-round picks just really doesn't do much for them at this stage. So for them to get Dobson for that was huge. I think this trade they made with St. Louis today helps them get better. So Montreal's looking like they might improve from their playoff appearance.
I guess I have a decade-long bold prediction because who knows when it'll happen. But I think that's the team who's going to win it for Canada first, because that's the last team who won it for Canada, and that's where the curse started. And I know people don't like to talk about the curse. I know Patrick Waugh, Babe Ruth. I'd argue they're pretty comparable, but just saying, like, that would be the romantic story, right? And I think we gave Edmonton a bunch of grief, and I think it was completely founded because they tried to build this ridiculous team and on the precipice, or on the idea that they were going to like restore the Canadian form of hockey and all this stuff. And I think Montreal is closer to that than Edmonton is, even though Edmonton was in the Stanley Cup final. So that's my decade, 2 decade, 3 decade long bold prediction is that Montreal.
I wouldn't mind that. I've never minded Montreal. So they can get some of their young talent to take another step. They could be a really exciting team.
All right. Well, we've been on the air for about almost 2 hours now with 1,200 of you tuned in live this whole time. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Sorry that the Avs aren't giving us anything in the form of signing news, nothing to analyze, nothing to talk about, but we've done a good job of dancing around some of the topics that are at hand. I guess I have about 8 minutes left until I got to go. Do you guys have anything, and Gal, have anything that we haven't touched on that you want to talk about before we leave?
Yeah, put me on the spot. I just think that we haven't talked about. No, I think we have touched on everything now. For me, if it was kind of like a final thought kind of thing, is just
let's do that.
Is a lot of their guys are still out there. Drouin, Kivi Ranta. We know Lindgren's gone, so that's one that's not coming back. But are they going to circle back around to bring these guys back in? That's just kind of where I'm curious about. I do wonder if they'd be in on getting Evan Rodriguez back. If Florida needs to cut somebody,
I'd like that.
He's on a good contract, and they know he fits, and Florida needs to make a move. So I wonder if they're looking at maybe something like that. Because we know they like to circle back on guys they're familiar with. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the theme here of this off season, but we'll see.
I wouldn't mind Evan Rodriguez at all. And if I'm being honest, Jackie's not going to like my answer, but I think they do bring back Kiviranta. I think they do
too. I think that's probably the next one that hits.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Especially with O'Connor out, he's an easy fill in there. I just hope that he's not the plan for the third line.
Yeah.
There's some guys I like for the third line. I'll just throw out some names as my final thoughts. I'd be interested to see if Mason Appleton becomes actually available or if he goes back to Winnipeg. I like him a lot. I like Taylor Radish out of Washington. And what was the other guy? Where'd he go?
He's literally running from you on your screen right
now. It seems that way. No, I'll just end the list there. I don't like Cole Koepka enough to really include him with those two guys. But one other thing I think is interesting from today is that Christian Dvorak signing in Philadelphia. 1 year, $5 million seems like an overpay for that guy, but a deadline acquisition of Christian Dvorak for $2.5 million, $2.7 million, whatever it is, if they retain 50%. That's a guy who's probably moving. That's my season-long prediction. Christian Dvorak plays somewhere else for the playoffs.
Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. Well, Evan, I was just about to ask you for your Jackie. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm looking at the list. Let's see if anybody's. I think Ezra mentioned Pervix. That wouldn't be terrible. He has a right shot though, which they're probably not going to get in on that. Jeff Skinner would be funny, but no, that's not happening. Oh boy, Lars Eller is still out there. I'm concerned about the unsigned old friends. I'm concerned about all the unsigned old friends.
Don't you dare. They're just going to be like, announce EJ's retirement and do nothing today.
Well, that's true. What about EJ? Does he come back for a year? We did talk about some of the unqualified guys, like Tomasino, I think was half decent.
He could be somebody.
There's a decent number of those guys that didn't get qualified. Now, I know some of them will re-sign with the team anyway, but if you could jump in there and say, we'll give you a better opportunity. I've always liked Peltier. I know he's probably pretty fringe at this point, but I still like him. I would at least be excited to see him.
You'd want him to be a two-way deal for sure.
Yeah. I don't think... Calvin DeHaan's still out there. Tyson Jost. I know DeHaan's not coming back.
Josty!
Jimmy Vesey. I actually forget that he was on this team. Every time that I see his name, I'm just like, oh yeah. I guess he could come back, even though, I don't know. I think they really didn't care.
All right, Evan, what do you got for me? Your final thought?
Sorry, I had to move inside because it started raining.
You're no longer outside of Avs development camp.
This is an interesting question that I thought of on my way in because we saw Parker Kelly get re-signed, but it was a re-signing for the start of the 2026-27 season. Are you surprised that Natchez wasn't the first one? And are you surprised Natchez wasn't the first one? And does Natchez get signed this summer? Or do they let this go into the season?
I'll just quickly say no, I'm not surprised because I think that's going to be a tough negotiation. And two, he has to get signed this summer. Like I said, it just if there's no common ground now, they're not going to find it later. So it doesn't. If it's a tough contract, it might take a while. It might take into September, but boy, that's the deadline.
I agree with all of that. I think she nailed it. Yeah, I think she nailed it.
Yeah. I don't think he does sign this summer, but I think that is that means he gets moved. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that I find intriguing is that I believe it was after one of the draft days that Chris McFarland spoke and that he mentioned that they would look at Natchez and re-signing, but I don't think they were that's our first priority.
Yeah.
But Parker Kelly was.
Well, because Parker
that's
Kelly
an easy one. How much negotiation?
Hey, Parker, we want you to stay.
Yeah. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
Oh,
they
4 years. Thanks, guys.
I'm just befuddled by it, I guess, is all.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you'd have more pride for a core guy, especially since you lost him for probably what I would argue is a better, different core guy, but that's besides the point.
But it's not an easy, like, there's so much that goes in. I just think it's not going to come together fast. Now, then it gets tough. If there is a lot to negotiate on, then it might not come together. But
Then you got to trade him.
It's just so easy to do those minuscule deals, though. It's not that they were a priority. It's just it probably took 30 minutes, and the contract was faxed.
Remember that
over.
call to Kroenke I was talking about? I don't even think they got to call him for that contract. I think he's cool with anything under anything under $3 million a year. He's like, whatever. We'll trade in one of the Lexuses for that. But my final thought is I just want to thank the three of you for coming and joining me on a Tuesday of all days in the middle of the day to talk about zero deals and to just show me your friendly faces and give us your time and passion. And I do want to give a quick shout out to D's Trucks, who did say earlier in our comment, yes, didn't know what it was toward, but it was when I asked, does Canada light fireworks today? Is that your thing? He said, yes, we do light fireworks. He sent me a direct message on X after.
Okay.
To be very clear. He said, we do light fireworks.
I did wonder that. I didn't want to assume, but I figured they have fireworks.
Well,
just do they light them off in the middle of your neighborhood?
Yeah.
Yourself.
It sounds like they're in on that sort of fun too. And that leaves me with this. Happy Canada Day to those of you, our neighbors in the north. And because we won't see you between now and then, happy 4th of July to my American friends here. May you have a safe 4th. Make sure you eat some hot dogs and hamburgers, maybe some potato chips, have a couple beverages. It's a wonderful day to celebrate. And it's been a wonderful time here on the Mile High Hockey Lab for our Free Agent Frenzy 2025 with an Avalanche focus. I almost guarantee you that within 10 minutes of us stopping this live broadcast, the Avalanche will announce their next signing.
Exactly. Get ready.
Yeah.
Coming.
Be tuned in to our socials as is. Head on over to X at all caps MHH_lab for the podcast and at Mile High Hockey. And then we do have a live free agent tracker on the website, milehighhockey.com. On behalf of myself, Ezra Parter, Evan Liu, Jackie K, I'm Adrian Hernandez, and this has been the Mile High Hockey Lab Free Agent Frenzy Edition. Until next time, go Avs.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.